Today's material, the gravity of union, black hole merge, explains the mechanics of how two huge gravitational bodies orbit, emit gravitational waves, and eventually fuse into a single entity. Streamlining the chronological narrative will dramatically increase the momentum of the piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because right now, the text starts by introducing the overarching concept of the merge, which, works really well, but then it pivots.
It really does. Yeah, it jumps into
This totally disconnected section. It's basically just a collection of interesting points. You've got the mass-to-energy conversion, Einstein's E equals mc squared, and then the 2015 LIGO discovery.
Right, just sort of floating there as a list?
Exactly, just listed out. And then, after taking that detour, the text inexplicably restarts. It drops a numbered 5-step breakdown of the exact same merger process we were just reading about.
And this circular structure completely ruins the pacing. I mean, the weakness here really comes down to how we process complex information. When someone is reading high-level scientific nonfiction, they are actively building a mental model in real time.
Right, they're laying the foundation.
Exactly. With those first few paragraphs, the reader starts visualizing the two black holes. They are constructing that mental scaffolding. But by summarizing the event, instantly pulling them out to take a detour into isolated trivia, and then forcing them to start all over again.
With the step-by-step list, yeah.
Right, with the list. The text demands that the reader completely abandon the mental scaffolding they just built and start from scratch.
Wow, yeah.
It creates severe cognitive whiplash. The reader's brain is just, constantly hitting the brakes, resetting, and trying to figure out where they are in physical space.
Well, hold on. I want to push back on that a bit.
Okay, sure.
Because I actually appreciate the separation, honestly. If I'm diving into heavy theoretical physics, I kind of want the fundamental rules laid out first, and the specific sequence of events second.
You don't think it breaks the flow?
I mean, if a writer tries to smash all these massive conceptual ideas, like the energy conversion math, the history of the detection, the orbital mechanics, into one single timeline, don't they risk completely overwhelming the reader?
I see what you're saying.
It seems like a very deliberate, classic textbook approach, right? Intentionally isolating the hardcore facts from the chronological story, so you don't drown in physics all at once.
I completely understand why it looks that way on the surface. And, well, that textbook approach is definitely very common. But I wonder if we've considered that integration actually reduces the reader's cognitive load, rather than increasing it.
Wait, really? Reduces it?
Yeah, because when facts are presented as isolated bullet points, the brain has to work twice as hard to memorize them. They lack any situational context.
Ah, right. They're just data.
Exactly, just floating data points in a void. So our suggestion to improve this is to use the 5 stages of the merger as the central, unified structural spine of the entire piece.
So build everything around that list.
Right. Do not separate the physics from the timeline. Instead, embed those disconnected facts organically into the chronological narrative.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this.
When the reader has a clear, forward-moving timeline of events, they are provided with a natural framework, like a sequence of hooks, where they can easily hang those heavy scientific concepts.
So instead of giving them a box of parts and then an instruction manual, you build the engine right in front of them, explaining the parts as you install them.
I love that analogy, yes.
I like that approach. So let's look at how to actually execute this integration on the page.
Well, a great concrete example of this is the mass-to-energy conversion you mentioned earlier, the E equals mc squared principle.
Right, the one just sitting in that list.
Yeah. Right now, the author has it sitting completely by itself in that list of interesting points. It's entirely theoretical. But instead of leaving it isolated, introduce that specific equation exactly at stage 5 of the merger.
Stage 5, that's the ring-down phase, right?
Exactly. Stage 5 is the ring-down phase, where the unstable, newly formed black hole finally settles into a stable shape and violently releases its residual energy as gravitational waves.
Right, it's shedding the mass it no longer needs.
Precisely. If you introduce the equation right there, at the exact moment the energy is violently being released in the timeline, the equation suddenly makes perfect narrative sense.
It has context now.
Yes. It is no longer just a formula on a chalkboard. It is the physical mechanism driving the climax of the event. You get to explain that 3 entire solar masses are being instantly converted into invisible energy, shaking the fabric of the universe.
Oh, wow. The math actually becomes the explosive finale of the story.
Exactly. Now, that is just one of many ways to weave the data in, but the fundamental goal is to ensure the facts serve the timeline rather than interrupt it. The timeline must always be moving forward.
Now that we have a unified timeline, we need to examine the specific language used to describe the bodies moving along that timeline. Refining the descriptive analogies will prevent the reader from visualizing contradictory mental models.
Oh, the imagery here is so important.
It really is. And I bring this up because there's a specific line in the text where the author gives an explicit instruction to the reader. They write, and I'm paraphrasing slightly here, but they explicitly tell the reader not to imagine one black hole swallowing the other like a vacuum cleaner.
Right. I remember that line.
They say, instead, picture two bodies entering a mutual orbit.
That is a fascinating choice by the author. But is there a risk that this kind of negative framing completely backfires?
How so?
Well, by explicitly telling the reader what not to think of, the text accidentally forces them to picture exactly that thing.
Oh, right. Like the pink elephant?
Exactly. It's the classic psychological trap. If I tell you not to picture a pink elephant, you instantly picture a pink elephant. By saying do not picture a vacuum cleaner, the reader's brain immediately conjures up a mundane household vacuum cleaner floating in the middle of deep space.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It does introduce a remarkably clunky negative analogy.
Right. And the true weakness here is the aesthetic clash. We are talking about the most violent, majestic, incomprehensible forces in general relativity.
And we're thinking about chores.
Exactly. The mental image immediately being triggered is a household appliance picking up dirt. It completely undercuts the sheer cosmic scale of the entire piece.
I mean, I definitely see the aesthetic clash. But in defense of the author, they are battling against decades of terrible pop culture science.
Oh, sure.
If you look at almost any sci-fi from the last 40 years, black holes are depicted exactly like that. Literal cosmic drains or giant vacuum cleaners just indiscriminately sucking up everything in the galaxy.
That's very true.
So it seems to me the author is fully aware of this public misconception and is trying to actively confront it, to dispel it head on before moving forward into the real physics.
That is a very fair assessment, and honestly, validating the author's intent is crucial here. They absolutely want to correct a widespread misconception.
Right.
But building on that point, what if we looked at it from the perspective of affirmative imagery?
Affirmative imagery?
Yeah. The suggestion here is to remove that negative framing entirely. You actually do not need to mention the misconception to correct it. Instead, replace the vacuum cleaner caveat with a strong affirmative metaphor that actively illustrates the orbital decay and the emission of ripples in spacetime.
Oh, I see.
You have to give the reader the correct, powerful image right out of the gate, so the incorrect image never even has a chance to form in their mind.
So instead of spending ink telling them what the universe doesn't look like, immediately paint a picture of what it does look like.
Precisely. Let's look at a concrete example of affirmative imagery. Instead of the vacuum, you could describe the two massive bodies like dancers, locked in an invisible, spiraling embrace.
Oh, that's good.
Right? You can describe how they are shedding energy into the fabric of space-time itself, almost like sweat on a dance floor, as they spin ever closer, circling faster and faster until their event horizons finally touch.
That entirely bypasses the vacuum cleaner myth without ever acknowledging.
Exactly. It gives the reader an accurate, majestic visual anchor right away. It perfectly captures the concept of a mutual decaying orbit.
And it highlights that they are acting upon each other, rather than one just passively consuming them.
Yes. Now, there are countless metaphors available to a writer. You could describe two ships caught in the same massive whirlpool, or two heavy magnets sliding across a frictionless table pulling at each other.
Right. The specific choice is up to the author.
Exactly. But the key is that the imagery must be affirmative. It must imply mutual attraction, and it must elevate the immense, awe-inspiring scale of the physics being discussed.
Having fixed the timeline and the imagery, the final step is giving the reader a compelling lens through which to view this cosmic dance. Anchoring the theoretical physics within the tangible reality of human discovery will provide a powerful emotional hook.
A critical step, for sure.
And this brings us to a specific historical reference in the text. The author mentions the 2015 LIGO detection.
Right.
For context, this was the moment humanity finally directly measured these gravitational waves hitting Earth, proving a theory Einstein proposed a century ago.
A huge deal.
Yeah, massive. Yet, in this draft, this monumental achievement is sitting casually in the middle of the text's points of interest, almost like a side note.
That is arguably the most significant structural missed opportunity in the piece. Burying the historic 2015 observation like that creates a massive weakness.
It really minimizes it.
It makes an astonishing real-world scientific milestone feel like a dry afterthought. I mean, when you are writing about events that happen millions or billions of light years away, there is an inherent risk that the reader will feel totally disconnected from the material.
It feels cold.
Cold and abstract, exactly. By dropping the LIGO detection into the middle of a list of trivia, the piece completely severs the connection between the dramatic 5-stage merger happening out in deep space and the reality of us here on Earth actually witnessing it.
It reminds me of an analogy I often use when looking at highly technical drafts.
Oh.
The way this is currently structured, it's like meticulously detailing the mechanical engineering of the first internal combustion engine. Like you spend pages on the exact ratios of the fuel mixture, the thermal dynamics of the spark plugs, the exact metal alloys used in the pistons.
Uh-huh.
But then you only casually mention in a footnote that someone actually put this engine in a metal box and drove it across a field.
Yes.
The draft technically contains all the correct information, but it entirely misses the human application. It misses the fundamental reason we, as the audience, actually care about the mechanics.
That is a perfect analogy. The mechanics only matter to the reader because of the human experience attached to them.
Exactly.
Science communication heavily relies on human relevance. So the suggestion here is to completely invert the framing of the piece. Use the 2015 LIGO detection not as a bullet point in the middle, but as the narrative entry point for the entire piece.
Open with it.
Yes, utilize that moment of human discovery as the lens through which the reader gets to witness the theoretical physics. By grounding the abstract math in a moment of tangible human achievement, you immediately give the reader a reason to invest emotionally in the heavy mechanics that follow.
But how do we execute that structural inversion without getting bogged down?
What do you mean?
Well, if we start with LIGO, how do we avoid spending the first 5 pages explaining the intricate mechanics of laser interferometers and giant mirrors, which would pull us away from the black holes?
That's the creative challenge. But here is a concrete example of how to handle it. One highly effective approach would be to open the piece with the exact moment the 2015 detection hit Earth.
Skip the mirrors.
Skip them entirely. You don't need to explain the lasers immediately. Just describe the physical consequence, a ripple in spacetime washing over the planet, shifting the distance between atoms, and the alarm suddenly going off in the labs.
Oh, that's cinematic.
Right? You start with the visceral imp, the famous chirp of the frequency. Then, use that dramatic moment to take the reader back in time. You flash back billions of years ago to the black hole, and you use the 5-stage merger process we refined earlier to explain exactly what caused those waves.
I love that. You move from the immediate, concrete human experience to the ancient, abstract cosmic event.
Exactly. You are essentially working backward from the evidence to the crime scene. And again, this is just one narrative choice among many. You could frame it as a mystery being solved or a century-long quest by physicists.
Sure.
But utilizing the discovery as the frame effectively grounds abstract relativity in something the reader can actually relate to. They aren't just reading about gravity. They are reading about how we caught gravity in the act.
That shift completely transforms the text from a theoretical physics lesson into a scientific detective story.
It really does.
Well, let's synthesize the main takeaways from our critique today to help the listener elevate their material. We focused on 3 high-level structural and thematic shifts.
Let's hear them.
First, combine the scattered facts and the 5-step mechanical list into a single, unified, chronological narrative spine.
A much stronger foundation.
Second, swap out the clunky, negative vacuum cleaner analogy for an affirmative, majestic visual metaphor that accurately captures the mutual orbit.
Right, frame it affirmatively.
And third, reframe the abstract physics around the real-world milestone of the 2015 LIGO detection.
Implementing those changes will ensure the reader never loses their mental model, properly visualizes the magnitude of the event, and feels the true emotional weight of the science.
We warmly invite the listener to apply these directives to their text, and we highly encourage you to submit your revised material for a future critique.